The armored personnel carrier bucked violently as mortar rounds walked closer, each explosion sending shockwaves through the cramped interior. Lieutenant Marcus, big head, Chen gripped his rifle tighter, the oversized helmet barely fitting over his disproportionately large skull. Around him, operators checked their gear with practiced efficiency. Some whispered final prayers. Others stared at the steel walls, already mentally rehearsing the assault. Some had already decided they wouldn't make it back. Chen was different from the others in ways that went beyond his tactical expertise. At 6 feet 2 inches with a head circumference of 26 inches, 4 inches above average, his appearance was impossible to ignore. Even now, minutes from one of the most dangerous missions in modern special operations history, he could sense the sideways glances, the same looks that had followed him since basic training. Bobblehead's going to make himself a target with that massive dome. Snipers dream with a head that size. Should have left basketball head back at base. The metallic taste of adrenaline mixed with familiar anger in Chen's mouth. 8 years. 8 years of being called big head, bobblehead, melon, and worse. 8 years of commanders questioning whether his physical abnormality made him unsuitable for high-risk operations. 8 years of proving himself in training, only to be told his head size made him a tactical liability. 8 years of watching average-looking operators get respect he'd earned but never received. The vehicle lurched to a stop. They were at the compound perimeter. In 18 hours, Marcus Chen would neutralize 76 hostile combatants during what would become known as Operation Crimson Dawn. He would prove that the greatest liability wasn't his appearance. It was the assumption that appearance mattered at all. But first, he had to survive the next 60 seconds. The rear hatch dropped with a hydraulic hiss. Gunfire erupted immediately. This is the story of how the military's most ridiculed operator became modern warfare's deadliest warrior. Marcus Chen entered the world with a condition doctors immediately noticed: macrocephaly, an abnormally large head circumference, not due to fluid accumulation or disease, but simply genetics expressing themselves in unusual proportions. His skull was structurally sound, his brain function normal, his cognition exceptional. He was just built different. By age 5, his head was already in the 99th percentile for size. Other children noticed. Kids are cruel with their observations, innocent in delivery but devastating in impact. Why is your head so big? You look like a bobblehead doll. Basketball head. Basketball head. His parents assured him he'd grow into it. He never did. By adolescence, his head remained disproportionately large. Not grotesquely so, but noticeably different. Enough that strangers would glance twice. Enough that fitting hats became an ongoing challenge. Enough that Big Head became his permanent nickname. But something else developed alongside the oversized skull: exceptional spatial awareness and cognitive processing speed. Whether related to his condition or coincidental, Chen demonstrated remarkable abilities in mathematics, three-dimensional thinking, and rapid decision-making under pressure. By 16, he was competing in robotics competitions, his team winning nationals through strategies Chen designed. By 18, he was accepted to MIT for mechanical engineering. By 20, he'd realized academic life wasn't enough. He wanted something more visceral, more immediate, more real. He wanted to serve. In 2008, at age 20, Marcus Chen walked into a Marine Corps recruiting station. The recruiter looked at him and barely suppressed a reaction. Chen was tall, lean, obviously fit. But that head, impossible to ignore. You meet all the physical requirements? The recruiter asked, eyes fixed on Chen's forehead. Yes, sir. I've researched every standard. I qualify. Medical issues? Birth defects? Developmental problems? Chen's jaw tightened. Macrocephaly. Benign. Purely cosmetic. No functional impairment. The recruiter nodded slowly. You'll need extra medical screening. The Corps needs to ensure you can wear standard-issue helmets and protective gear. I understand, sir. The medical examinations were humiliating. Doctors measured his skull from every angle. They tested his balance, coordination, neck strength, as if a large head meant his body couldn't support it. They photographed him from multiple angles for documentation purposes. Finally, the waiver came through. Marcus Chen was medically cleared for service, with a note in his file. Despite cranial abnormality, candidate demonstrates no functional limitations. Recommend standard training pipeline with equipment accommodation as needed. Cranial abnormality, like he was defective merchandise being reluctantly accepted. Chen reported to Marine Corps recruit training at Paris Island in July 2008. The mockery started before he finished in-processing. What the hell is that on your shoulders, recruit? The drill instructor circled Chen like a predator, voice echoing across the squad bay. Chen stood at attention, eyes forward, jaw clenched. My head, sir. Your head? That's not a head. That's a goddamn weather balloon. Did you inflate that thing with a bicycle pump? Laughter rippled through the platoon. The drill instructor silenced it with a glare, then refocused on Chen. Bobblehead. That's your new name, Bobblehead. Every time I see that massive dome wobbling around my training ground, I'm going to think about how much easier you make enemy snipers' jobs. Sound off. Yes, sir. The nickname stuck immediately. Bobblehead. Big head Chen. Melon. Basketball. The creative cruelty of recruits finding the easiest target. His platoon commander, Lieutenant Vasquez, called him aside after the second week. Chen, I'm concerned about your suitability for combat operations. Sir, your head size creates additional risk. Larger target profile, difficulty finding properly fitting protective equipment, potential neck strain during extended operations. Vasquez's tone was clinical, not cruel. I'm recommending you for reassignment to technical services. Your engineering background would be valuable in maintenance or logistics. Sir, I enlisted to serve in combat arms. I can perform any task required. Can you? Have you considered that your physical abnormality puts your unit at increased risk? Abnormality. There was that word again. Sir, I'll prove my capability. Vasquez looked skeptical. We'll see how you perform. Chen threw himself into training with obsessive intensity. Every rifle qualification. He shot expert scores. Every land navigation course. He finished ahead of the pack. Every tactical problem. He provided solutions others missed. His spatial reasoning and cognitive speed gave him advantages in areas that mattered for combat effectiveness. But the physical training instructors only saw his head. They made him wear extra padding during combative training to protect that valuable brain housing group. They exempted him from certain equipment drills, assuming standard gear wouldn't fit. They watched him during helmet drills, waiting for him to fail. The message was constant. Your appearance makes you deficient, regardless of actual performance. The other recruits absorbed this lesson. If the instructors treated Chen like he was inadequate, he must be inadequate. The mockery continued, but Chen kept performing. He graduated recruit training in the top 10% of his platoon. He earned a meritorious promotion to private first class based on demonstrated leadership and tactical acumen. The only consistent issue? Standard issue helmets fit poorly, requiring custom padding solutions that became a running joke. Even the Corps' equipment knows big head doesn't belong. Chen deployed to Afghanistan twice with 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. He served as a squad-designated marksman, his exceptional spatial awareness and cognitive processing making him devastatingly effective with a rifle. In Helmand Province, he recorded 23 confirmed enemy kills over 7 months, each shot carefully placed, each engagement calculated with mathematical precision. His ability to read terrain, calculate windage, and predict target movement was uncanny. But even with a growing combat record, the comments never stopped. Chen's good, but Jesus, that head makes him stand out. Walking target marker. Bobblehead's gonna get himself killed one of these days. Can't hide that melon behind cover. His platoon commander's fitness report noted. Despite physical abnormality presenting tactical concerns, PFC Chen demonstrates exceptional combat effectiveness. Recommend continued service with awareness of increased risk profile. Despite, always despite, Chen applied for Marine Special Operations Training in 2014. His record was exemplary. 2 combat deployments, 23 confirmed kills, multiple commendations, expert marksman scores, and tactical acumen that exceeded expectations. His application was initially rejected, the reason verbally conveyed but never officially documented. Concerns about whether his physical characteristics were suitable for the elevated operational tempo and high-risk environments of Special Operations Forces. Chen appealed. He submitted medical evaluations, confirming no functional limitations. He provided letters from commanding officers attesting to his capability. He scored in the 99th percentile on the cognitive assessment. Finally, he was grudgingly accepted into assessment and selection. The attrition rate was 70%. Most candidates failed due to physical demands or psychological pressure. Chen passed every evolution, not just passed, but excelled. His performance during the final exercise, a 72-hour tactical problem requiring navigation, decision-making under pressure, and team leadership, was noted as exceptional. He led his team through a complex scenario that most groups failed, making decisions faster and more accurately than candidates with years more experience. He graduated Marine Special Operations Training in 2015, earning the coveted MARSOC Raider designation. But even then, even after proving himself again and again, the doubts persisted. Chen's got the skills, no question. But that head, man, it's a liability in close quarters battle. Enemies sees that coming around a corner before they see anything else. He'd killed men in combat. He'd led successful operations. He'd demonstrated capability beyond question. But the appearance remained, and with it, the assumption of inadequacy. Intelligence indicated a high-value target, a senior ISIS commander responsible for coordinating attacks across 3 countries, was operating from a fortified compound near the Syrian-Iraqi border. The compound was heavily defended. 200-plus combatants, prepared fighting positions, interlocking fields of fire, and a willingness to fight to the death. Previous attempts to neutralize the target through airstrikes had failed. The commander moved frequently, used human shields, and had survived 3 assassination attempts. The decision was made: send in a special operations team for direct action. Chen's unit, a 12-man Marine Raider team designated Task Force Crimson, received the mission. They would conduct a nighttime raid, neutralize a high-value target, and extract before enemy reinforcements arrived. During final mission briefing, the team leader paused while reviewing personnel assignments. Chen, you'll be with the assault element breaching the main compound. One of the other operators, a senior team sergeant named Martinez, spoke up. Sir, recommend Chen stay with the perimeter security element. Less exposure. The implication was clear. Chen's jaw tightened. I'm qualified for assault. My CQB scores are... We know your scores, Chen. Martinez's tone was careful. Just thinking tactically. Your profile makes you more visible in close quarters. Profile. Another euphemism. The team leader looked uncomfortable. Chen stays with assault element. His decision-making speed is an asset for dynamic entry situations. Martinez didn't argue further, but the doubt hung in the air like smoke. That night, during pre-mission equipment checks, Chen heard the whispered conversation behind him. Bobblehead's gonna get someone killed. Watch. That dome's gonna catch a bullet and cause a whole assault to collapse. Chen said nothing. Tomorrow would speak louder than any words tonight. The breaching charge detonated with a sharp crack, blowing the compound's main door off at hinges. Chen was third to the entry point, by his choice, put himself in the most dangerous position to prove he wasn't seeking safety. The interior was chaos. ISIS fighters were alert, prepared, and committed to defense. Gunfire erupted immediately. The first offender appeared in the doorway, rifle rising. Chen's weapon was already on target. His peripheral vision had caught the movement before others processed it. 2 rounds center mass. The defender dropped. Second defender. Emerging from a stairwell. Chen's cognitive processing speed meant he was acquiring the target while others were still tracking the first threat. 1 round. Headshot. Down. Third defender. Firing from partial cover. Chen's spatial awareness allowed him to calculate the geometry instantly, where the defender's body had to be based on visible elements. 3 rounds through the wall at the calculated position. The firing stopped. Confirmed kill when they cleared the room. In the first 90 seconds, Chen neutralized 6 enemy combatants with 11 rounds fired. While other operators were still processing the entry chaos, Chen's mind was operating at a different speed, perceiving threats faster, calculating solutions instantaneously, executing with machine precision. His large head, the thing everyone called a liability, housed a brain that processed combat geometry like others processed basic arithmetic. The assault team pushed deeper into the compound. Each room presented new threats, new decisions, new chances to die. Chen was always a half-second ahead. His awareness of three-dimensional space meant he understood building layout intuitively, predicted where defenders would position themselves, anticipated angles of fire before doors opened. By 03:45, the assault element had cleared the ground floor. 12 enemy casualties. 0 friendly casualties. Chen personally accounted for 9 of the kills. 3 with rifle fire. 6 with precisely placed grenades thrown with calculated force and trajectory. The team's Sergeant Martinez keyed his radio. Ground floor secure. Chen's performance is exceptional. They pushed to the second floor. This was where the high-value target was believed to be located, and where defenses would be strongest. They were right. The stairwell funnel was a kill zone. ISIS fighters had positioned machine guns to cover the only approach. The first operator up the stairs took fire immediately and was forced back, rounds sparking off the walls around him. Standard assault doctrine had multiple solutions for this problem, but all required time they didn't have. Intelligence suggested the HVT would attempt escape within minutes of the assault beginning. Chen analyzed the geometry in seconds. Stairwell angle, machine gun position, ceiling height, wall material. His mind calculated like a computer running combat algorithms. Grenade through that ventilation duct, he said calmly, pointing to a metal grate in the wall. Angle will drop it directly onto machine gun position. That's a 10-foot throw through a 2-foot opening at a 40-degree angle, Martinez said. That's impossible. It's physics, not impossible. Chen pulled a grenade, calculated the precise force needed, and threw. The grenade sailed to the ventilation grate perfectly, disappeared into the duct, and detonated exactly where he predicted. The machine gun went silent. The team pushed up the stairs. Chen was in the lead, not seeking glory, but because his processing speed made him most effective at the front where split-second decisions mattered most. The second floor was a maze of rooms and corridors. Defenders were positioned throughout, determined to protect the HVT at all costs. Chen moved through the space like he designed it himself. His spatial awareness meant he understood the building geometry innately, predicted room layouts before entering them, calculated where defenders would be positioned based on tactical logic. First room, 2 defenders behind furniture barricade. Chen threw a flashbang, then entered during the disorientation window. 4 rounds, 2 targets, both neutralized before they recovered their senses. Second room, 3 defenders in positions that created crossfire. Chen read the geometry, identified the fatal funnel, and threw 2 grenades in sequence. First to break up their positions, second to neutralize them while they were displaced. All 3 casualties. Third room, single defender with RPG, prepared to fire down the corridor. Chen processed the threat instantly, calculated that any movement into the hallway would be fatal, and instead fired to the wall based on his understanding of room dimensions and likely position. The RPG clattered to the floor unfired. Confirmed kill. By 04:10, the second floor was secure. 23 enemy casualties. Chen accounted for 17 of them. Martinez stared at him with something between awe and disbelief. Chen! That was the most effective room clearing I've seen in 15 years of doing this. The high-value target was located in a reinforced room on the 3rd floor. The final push would be the most dangerous. The reinforced door required multiple breaching charges. The explosion was massive, and the entry team knew defenders inside would be alert and prepared despite the shock. Chen entered first. The room held 7 ISIS fighters, all positioned to defend their commander. It should have been a death trap for anyone coming through that door. But Chen's brain was processing the scene faster than theirs could react. Threat assessment instantaneous. Positions identified, weapons classified, danger prioritized, target acquisition simultaneous. His rifle tracked to the first threat, while his mind was already calculating the second. Decision execution faster than conscious thought. Trigger press, shift, acquire, press, shift, acquire. 7 defenders. 6 seconds. 7 casualties. Chen's rifle fell silent. The room was secure. The high-value target was attempting to crawl toward a weapon. "Don't," Chen said calmly. The target froze. Mission accomplished. 0421 hours. But Chen's combat effectiveness that day was just beginning. Intelligence had underestimated enemy reinforcements. As Task Force Crimson attempted to extract from the compound with the captured HV key, over 150 ISIS fighters from nearby positions converged on their location. The perimeter security element was quickly overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The assault team found themselves trapped inside a compound surrounded by hostiles determined to recapture their commander. This was a nightmare scenario. Extract helicopters were 30 minutes out. The team had to hold against a force more than 10 times their size. Chen immediately took charge of defensive positioning. His spatial awareness meant he understood the compound geometry perfectly, identified optimal defensive positions, calculated fields of fire, and positioned team members to create interlocking coverage. Martinez, northeast corner, second floor, covered the approach road. Davidson, southwest, ground level, covered the wall breach. Patterson, with me on the east wall. That's where they'll mass for assault. The team moved into position. Chen positioned himself on the east wall with Patterson, where he calculated the main assault would focus. He was right. At 0445, approximately 60 ISIS fighters assaulted the east wall. They came in waves, confident that numbers would overwhelm the defenders. Chen made them pay for that confidence. His marksmanship was surgical. 1 shot, 1 kill, systematic reduction of enemy forces with mechanical efficiency. His cognitive processing speed meant he was acquiring his next target, while others were still confirming their previous hit. The first wave broke after Chen killed 14 fighters in 3 minutes. The survivors retreated, dragging casualties. The second wave came at 0455, larger, more coordinated, using suppressing fire and movement tactics. Approximately 80 fighters this time. Chen's spatial awareness allowed him to track multiple targets simultaneously, predict movement patterns, and calculate firing solutions faster than seemed humanly possible. He killed 11 fighters in the second wave before they broke contact. The third wave came at 0510. ISIS commanders had committed every available fighter. Over 100 men in a desperate assault to recapture their commander before air support arrived. This was the critical moment. If this wave breached the compound, the team would be overrun. Chen shifted to full combat automation. His mind entered a state where conscious thought dissolved into pure reaction, perceiving, calculating, executing in seamless flow. He moved between firing positions, never staying static, constantly repositioning to maintain advantage. His rifle fired with metronomic rhythm. Acquire, press, shift. Acquire, press, shift. Each shot a confirmed hit. ISIS fighters fell in clusters. Chen was targeting the tactical leaders first, the ones directing others, the ones making decisions. Remove the commanders, and the assault loses cohesion. His accuracy under pressure was inhuman. Of 47 rounds fired during the third wave, 43 found lethal targets, a 91% hit rate during sustained combat against a numerically superior force. The third wave broke at 0525. ISIS fighters retreated beyond effective rifle range, content to keep the Americans contained rather than continue taking catastrophic casualties. Extract helicopters arrived at 0530. The team boarded with the HVT. 0 friendly casualties. Total enemy casualties during the compound defense. 38, with Chen personally accounting for 31 of them, combined with the performance during the initial assault. 76 total confirmed kills in approximately 5 hours of sustained combat operations, more than any single operator had achieved in modern special operations history. All accomplished by the man they called Bobblehead, the soldier they said was a liability because of how he looked. The after-action review was conducted by the task force commander, Colonel Richards, who'd flown in specifically to debrief what was already being called the most successful direct-action raid in recent military history. The team sat in a secure briefing room, exhausted, still processing what they'd survived. Richards reviewed the operation timeline, confirmed kill counts and tactical decisions. When he reached Chen's performance, he paused. Lieutenant Chen, your personal casualty count is 76 confirmed hostile combatants neutralized over 5 hours of continuous operations. Your accuracy rate exceeded 90%. Your tactical decision-making during both assault and defense phases was exemplary. Richards looked directly at Chen. This is the most effective individual combat performance I've encountered in 28 years of service. The room was silent. Martinez, the team sergeant who questioned Chen's placement in the assault element, spoke quietly. Sir, I owe Chen an apology. I doubted his suitability for assault operations based on physical considerations. I was completely wrong. Chen looked at Martinez, not with triumph, but with a weary knowledge that earning respect required killing 76 men, respect that should have been given based on proven capability long before this operation. We all had doubts, another operator admitted. The head thing. We thought it made him more vulnerable, easier to target. Turns out what's inside the head matters more than its size. Richards nodded. I'm recommending Lieutenant Chen for the Navy Cross. His actions during Operation Crimson Dawn were extraordinary by any measure. The commendation came through 3 months later. Chen received the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism, with a citation describing his tactical brilliance and combat effectiveness in detail. But even after this operation, even after the Navy Cross, even after 76 confirmed kills prove his capability beyond any doubt, the jokes never completely stopped. Training exercises still produce comments about bobblehead leading the assault. New operators still notice his appearance first, his capability second. The system still noted his cranial abnormality in medical files, still treated his appearance as something requiring accommodation rather than simple difference. The military celebrated his performance while maintaining that the initial doubts had been reasonable. The assumption was never that judging him by appearance was wrong, only that exceptional performance could overcome a perceived deficiency. Chen continued serving in special operations. He deployed to Syria, Iraq, Libya, and Niger. His combat record grew. Over 100 confirmed enemy kills, multiple successful direct action missions, a reputation as one of the most effective operators in the special operations community. But the psychological weight of constant proving wore on him. Every new team meant establishing credibility again. Every new commander meant overcoming the same initial doubts. Every operation meant being hyper-aware that any mistake would be attributed to his appearance rather than normal combat friction. The pressure to maintain perfection was exhausting. In 2019, during a training exercise, Chen missed a shot during a long-range shooting drill. The miss was attributed to wind calculation error, something that happens to every marksman. But the comment he overheard cut deep. Even Chen's having trouble. Maybe that top-heavy dome throws off his balance. One miss, after hundreds of successful shots, after 100-plus confirmed combat kills, and still the appearance was blamed. The 76 kills that should have settled all doubts forever were somehow never quite enough. Chen left active duty in 2022, transitioning to contract training work. He still serves, now teaching special operations candidates the tactics and decision-making processes that made him so effective. His students don't mock his appearance. They're too focused on absorbing every lesson from a man who proved himself 76 times in one day. But Chen knows the broader military still struggles with the core issue his career exposed. Marcus Chen's story resonates because it challenges fundamental assumptions about capability and appearance. Military standards exist for legitimate reasons. Physical characteristics can affect equipment fit, tactical profile, and operational effectiveness. But Chen demonstrated that statistical correlations don't apply universally to individuals. His large head housed a brain with processing speed that gave him combat advantages most operators never develop. His spatial awareness exceeded what training alone could provide. His cognitive abilities made him more effective than operators who fit appearance standards perfectly. The chart said his appearance was a liability. Reality said the charts were measuring the wrong things. Modern militaries still struggle with this issue. Physical appearance standards remain rigid despite recognition that capability comes from multiple factors. Operators with unusual physical characteristics face additional scrutiny regardless of performance. The broader lesson extends beyond military context. Society constantly judges people based on appearance rather than ability. People with physical differences face discrimination in employment, education, and social situations based on assumptions about their capabilities. Chen's story proves these assumptions can be completely wrong. They mocked his head size, called him bobblehead, melon, basketball head, told him he was too visible, too vulnerable, too different for elite operations, recommended he stay in support roles instead of combat, doubted he could perform under the physical and cognitive demands of special operations. They looked at an oversized skull and decided it was a liability. They were wrong about everything. ISIS compound, 200 defenders, fortified positions, a mission everyone knew would be costly. The operator they mocked waded through the breaching explosion, advanced when others hesitated, eliminated threats with systematic precision. 9 enemy casualties during initial assault, killed by Chen's rifle fire and grenades. 17 casualties during second floor clearing, neutralized through Chen's tactical brilliance and spatial mastery. 7 casualties in the HVT room, eliminated in 6 seconds of perfect execution. 31 casualties during defensive operations, killed as Chen held the perimeter against overwhelming numbers. 76 confirmed kills in 5 hours, more than any single operator achieved in modern warfare, accomplished by the man they called Bobblehead. Hours after the mockery, 76 enemies were dead. The commanders who doubted him watched him prove them wrong 76 times. The system that questioned his capability celebrated him with America's second highest military decoration for valor. The operators who called him a liability learned that the person they dismissed was the most capable among them. But the celebration couldn't erase the wrongness of the initial judgment. Chen knew all along his appearance was irrelevant. He tried explaining that capability comes from mental processing, tactical understanding, and determination, not from fitting appearance norms. He demonstrated his capabilities despite constant criticism. Nobody listened until he killed 76 enemies in 5 hours. Then they listened, then they understood, then they admitted they'd been wrong. The story teaches that judging people based on appearance misses what matters, that standards and metrics measure some things, but ignore others. That capability comes from character, cognition, and skill, not from fitting arbitrary appearance expectations. That assumptions about limitations often reflect our biases more than others' realities. That the person everyone dismisses might prove most capable of all. Marcus Chen, the operator with the oversized head, the hero of Operation Crimson Dawn, the man who killed 76 enemies while everyone else was still processing their prejudice, the warrior who proved that appearance measures nothing about capability, that what's inside someone matters infinitely more than how they look on the outside. That assumptions about limitations often crumble when confronting reality. They mocked his head size. Hours later, 76 enemies were dead, and every assumption lay shattered alongside them. The deadliest lesson of that operation wasn't about tactics or firepower. It was about the fatal mistake of confusing appearance with ability, of trusting first impressions over proven performance, of assuming that the person who doesn't look like your ideal can exceed your expectations. Lieutenant Marcus Chen proved that lesson 76 times in one extraordinary day. And the people who mock him learned that sometimes the most dangerous warrior is the one you underestimate because of how he looks.